Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network. And welcome back, everyone. This is one of those situations that we will be faced with at one point in our lives, if not already. And that is a loved one passes. And whether it was expected or not, now what? You have to plan a funeral. There's a lot that goes into that. How do we deal with that? What are the steps? And there's so many different variations in that in terms of what their wishes are, where they may have passed, and on and on. This is Deceased and Assist, and that is with Geri Oliverie, who is the owner of a wonderful family-owned funeral home, actually two of them in New Jersey, and she's our go-to person when it comes to this topic, a very important one. She's back with us. Welcome. How are you doing today?
Good, great. I'm glad to be back. Glad you're doing well also.
Thank you. Yeah, it's good to have you back here. And this is one of those things that you don't think about it. You don't want to think about it, but it is a fact of life that when somebody passes, there's a lot of emotion involved in this. There's family interaction involved in this, which can be challenging too. So many different scenarios. Can we start breaking some of those scenarios down now?
So the first thing is most people panic. Somebody passed, they haven't made prearrangements, whether expecting it or not. Sometimes we just want to spend time with our loved ones, even if they are, going to be dying. So now we're like, now what? We're stressed, we're grief stricken, and we don't know what to do. So there's like a few scenarios I like to go through just to help you know what is the next step, right? So like if someone dies in a hospital, that's considered an inpatient. So you will be transferred and processed through the morgue department. And for some, that's also security because they have to check you out. But all the hospitals in New Jersey, they're required to go through your motor vehicle records and see if you're a donor. Because if you're an organ donor, then we also have an extra step when you're at the hospital. We have to contact the New Jersey Sharing Network, and the hospital does that. And they say, hey, it's, on your driver's license, mom, dad, or loved one is a donor, organ donor. So we just want to let you know this is the next process, and we're going to do this. And they don't really give families choice because it is a contract binding with the state of New Jersey on your driver's license. So although I'm a big fan of organ donation, I'm not a big fan of checking the box because they are very large, but they also have to handle every death in every hospital in the state of New Jersey. So it could be like hours before they get back to you or talk to you, or they don't get you and they just leave you on hold until you call. And you're like, well, we're just trying to plan a funeral. So I say, do the organ donation, tell your family what you want to do. Don't check the box. Let them know you're willing to do the organ donation. It's just so you have a little bit more control.
How do you do that? Let's go back to that because many of us are unsure. And again, it varies by state. But if you want to be an organ donor and you don't want to check the box to add to the complexity of everything, how do you become an organ donor? How do you let them know? So
if you die in an institution where they can hold you, refrigerate you, and do everything, there's two scenarios with it. One, you die in an accident or something where you're living in the hospital, you die and you're on some kind of respirator where they can keep your organs alive and oxygenated. Those organs can be transplanted, used for live living people. The other kind of organ donation is you die, you're not eligible, you're too old, disease, whatever, or you're just not a good candidate, and they send you to the morgue. Then the New Jersey Sharing Network will still get involved and try and get bone and tissue, but that's not a bad thing because that stuff is going to be used in hospitals where they train new doctors, people who are becoming funeral directors, nurses, dentists. Wow. They use all of that, and that's a good thing, why not? But to not have any control or say is a little discomforting to some families because they'll be like, he's still in the morgue. And you have to say, I know they can't release him. When the Sharing Network gets there, they get there, right? But that's for the non-living donation. The living donation happens very quick because they need to keep that oxygenated, and then they match it. And then once they know the match is happening and that person gets to the hospital, then they disconnect everything and they have 2 hours to get it to the hospital and into the person, right? So they don't do anything until they have the match and the person is prepped and ready for surgery.
Wow.
Right. And that's the best kind, right? We all love to save someone and know our heart or our organs are in somebody that's still living and appreciates our donation.
Wow. It's complicated, but so important. So important.
Yeah.
Wow.
So if we're done with the sharing network or whatever, it's not being used. I mean, once that's all done, we can get you. But if you die in an emergency room in the hospital or you're an inpatient under 24 hours, you're immediately a medical examiner case. They have to review the documents, see why you were brought in. Do you have doctor's care? Or do we have to go by what happened when you came in off those doctor notes? Or are we doing an autopsy because nobody knows what happened, right? So those are the type of situations for hospitals. Nursing homes don't have any refrigeration. So because they don't have refrigeration, you're really not a candidate for any type of network sharing of organs. And then you have 2 hours to make sure the funeral home gets there. So it really amazes me that New Jersey lets nursing homes not have refrigeration because people who go there most likely die. They have DNRs and stuff like that.
Sure.
So why don't we have refrigeration? I don't know. So they give us 2 hours to get there. So when you go to a nursing home, they make you list a funeral home of choice that you want to use so that if they can't get you, they call us. But if they can get you, they ask, do you want to come in and see your loved one one more time?
Boy,
which is nice.
That's adds a challenge to you and your staff because you got to get there within a certain amount of time.
Yeah, they give you 2 hours.
Wow.
2 hours. Yep. Unless the family's coming in. If the family comes in, the clock doesn't start till the family leaves.
Gotcha. Wow.
Right. So it's not too bad. The nursing homes are all close enough. You know, they're not usually too far. You can get there. But again, that's just in my area. I don't know about the whole state. I know Ocean County, that's all the nursing homes are like, yeah, 2 hours, you know. But what are they going to do? You get there when you get there. But we try to get there really fast because if they're going to have a viewing, the best way to have somebody look the most natural, of course, is to get them, bring them back and do the embalming immediately, right? No refrigeration. So they look so much more like themselves. That's all. So that's why we like to do it also. So we don't care about the 2 hour rule.
What you just said is the things that nobody knows. But it's the thing. Really, I mean, you probably take it for granted because you've been doing this for literally decades. But this is the stuff that the rest of us kind of wonder about, but we don't ask. And who do you ask? But you wonder about it.
Yeah, the faster we get you and the faster we can get out the systems that are going to, like the blood that's going to get tainted and affect everything. Because you got respiration, cell respiration still going on and still living off, you know, because a lot of the cells lift off dead material. So they're living off that respiration in those cells in your body. So that's no good for us. So the faster we get you and get that out and get that tainted blood out, the better you look.
Wow.
You know, you look, yeah. And that's just what we try to do, you know. Refrigeration tends to make the blood coagulate, harder to get out, right? Sometimes it goes through osmosis. It will have livor mortis, which means it goes to where to the skin, and it follows gravity. So if you're on your back, it's in your back. If you're on your face, it's on your face. And once it stains the skin, we can't get it out. We can only cover it with makeup. So the faster we get you, the better you look.
Got it. And I've always heard that term, rigor mortis.
Yeah.
Always wondered. Okay.
Yeah, rigor mortis comes and goes. I'm not worried about it. It's a livor mortis.
Got it.
That's the staining. Mm-hmm.
We're going deep here, people, but this is reality. This is life.
Yeah.
And this is...
So what if you die at home, right? That's a whole nother scenario. Like, if you're in hospice, you got to call the nurse, which is great. The nurse comes, we come. Simple. But if there's no nurse, then you have to call the cops. The cops have to look at the scene and make sure it's natural. There's no crime scene, no overdose, no, anything like that. So that's their job. So they're like, why do the police have to get involved? You'd be surprised how many seniors kill their spouse because they can't take care of them any longer. Right. And it's stressful and they just can't do it. And they might, who knows, overdose them or whatever. So cop's job to make sure that scene is secure and that it's all right. And then they'll call the doctor. And if the doctor says, no problem, that's my patient, we'll sign, funeral home is coming. But if the doctor hasn't seen them in over 11 months or I can't get the doctor because it's 2 a.m., the doctors, they're not reachable sometimes. They get transferred to the morgue for the Ocean County Medical Examiner until they can reach that doctor, and then they'll release, right? If the doctor says no, then they decide based on age and past records and medication they're taking if they're going to view or do an autopsy. So that's like a whole nother thing. But it's easy enough because we know how to do it. So you don't panic. Your first inclination if someone dies, if it's not the cops or the nurse, is the funeral home, because then we can guide you and then we can move the steps a little faster, right? Gotcha. We don't expect you to remember what we're saying, but if you're on hospice, the nurse will tell you. She'll remind you. If you're not in hospice, you definitely have to call the cops. That's just the way it is.
What if it's a car accident, motor vehicle accident?
So if they die in a car accident or a motor vehicle accident, you're automatically under the auspices of the medical examiner because a couple of things. One, whose fault it is. All the living and the deceased are going to be checked for any kind of toxicology because they need to know, because there's a death now involved. So are we going to court? Are we prosecuting? Who was under the influence? We don't know. Whose fault was it? I've had one case where although the person was under the influence, he wasn't the cause of the accident. So that's a whole other thing they have to deal with. But everybody's going to get tested. And then they goes to the medical examiner because what if it's not intentional or accidental? What if you're trying, like life insurance pays double indemnity. And that means if you have a $100,000 policy, you're getting $200 because it's either death by accident or dismemberment, right? So a lot of people have these $1,000 policies that don't pay, but they will if it's a car accident and it's accidental. So you have to find out, was it intentional? Because if it's intentional, because maybe you have cancer or something, or you're suicidal. If it's intentional, they don't have to pay that double amount. You did it on purpose. You knew what you were doing. It's a type of fraud. You're trying to get the insurance company to pay out more. So you're under the auspices of the medical examiner to make all these determinations.
Wow. These are the things that we don't normally think of.
No.
Wow.
No, we don't. And there's like so many little loopholes and different things and angles and but they're up on it, so they know and they can pay attention to it and just figure it all out. But we can get you out. We can get you. I have one now. He's a diabetic. So he dies. And it just happened, not even a day ago. And the family, of course, call the police. The police get in touch with the doctor. The doctor says, no problem, I'm going to sign. You can take the person into your custody. Okay, we take them into our care. Luckily, we didn't do anything yet because we didn't speak with the family. And the situation was 3 months ago, he had a car accident. And the car accident was somebody else hitting him and being prosecuted, but not fully done yet, right? Not 100% done, not, still got to go to court. Ocean County prosecutor's working on that. And they're like, hey, don't touch that person. We need to do an autopsy. What if it was a direct result of something in the accident and we don't know? Maybe it had nothing to do with his diabetes. We're like, could be. We don't know. So they're like, we're coming, just transfer it to us. And we'll let you know what we're going to do. But I really do believe they're going to do an autopsy because they haven't gone to court and prosecuted this guy yet. So first it's, just some kind of accident under the influence, now could be manslaughter. Right?
Wow.
And this just happened. I mean, we still don't have them. It was only a couple of days ago. We still don't have them because they're working out these details of what they're going to do. And because they need toxicology, they need, I don't know, They need a direct link. I don't know what type of accident. I don't know how much he was injured or how long he was in the hospital. These are things we're not privy to. Only the prosecutor knows. So they're going to make that determination.
You have to, because of the nature of your business, you get in the middle of a lot of different situations.
A lot of situations, unfortunately, because people are unfortunately die many, many, many different ways. Even like ODs, who sold them the drugs? They now trace that back because sometimes there's fentanyl in it or they put something in it. They trace that back now. Because I don't know, but they know. They say there's markers in there. They can trace it back to certain people who sell certain drugs, and they can write down to the drug dealer that sold it to them, and they're going to jail. It's manslaughter. Again, you might as well put the needle in his arm yourself. So it's scary. So again, they're always autopsied anyway. But
amazing. What about active duty? Somebody in service?
Oh yeah. So if somebody dies in active duty, and no matter what branch, as long as you're active duty, you can be on PTO, paid time off. If you die, I had that. I have many situations. It's so funny. So one time I had a guy active duty on vacation kayaking and died. Still gets the full royal treatment. It doesn't matter if you died during during the actual war or you got shot or whatever. As long as you're active duty, you get the whole royal treatment, and they pay for a lot. So they transfer you to what we commonly call Dover Port Morgue. It's in Dover, Delaware. All the branches go there. They do all the embalming, brand new uniforms, all their medals, ribbons, and everything get completely done correctly. And then they get put in, they ask the family their preference, metal or wood. They pay for the casket, and they send the casket, and then we can either go there, or they fly them, or they escort them to us. So, and all three scenarios are really impressive. If they get transferred to us in escort, all the motorcycles and it's just great. They're in front of us. They're behind us. The lights, you don't drive too fast. You don't drive too slow. And it's just a wonderful experience. It's a long drive for us, from Dover to there. But they do it, and if that's what the family wants. If you want them flown, when you get to the airport, I've done this too, where you bring the hearse out and then you wait. The people in the plane can watch if they want. They don't let them out yet. And all the hoses are doing this beautiful water arch. Everybody is at attention, all these big high-ranking brass. And then they escort it. It comes down the little thing with the flag on it. And the military's there to lift it, pick it up, shoulder it, take it to the hearse. They do such a beautiful job. And then from there, it's into our custody again. I will say that it's very, very impressive. It's sad that the person died, of course, but they were serving their country. They're young usually. They're active duty. So, of course, they're going to do all this for them. They don't give them enough anyway. They might as well do this.
There's so many, like we said, scenarios. That seems to be the word for this podcast. There's all different situations, scenarios, types of services. What are some of the more unique services you've done? Let's say somebody has a love of motorcycles or something.
I had a guy he worked for JCP&L. He did not die on the job, but he was still working. He wasn't retired. He just died like a heart attack. Nothing sufficient. He just died. And they made they take the light pole material, the poles, and they made for him. It was about 6 feet tall, the cross beam, the fake transformer on it, his name, everything. And then in the front of the funeral home, the JCP&L trucks come with the boomers, and and they have the flags, and they're a union. So they had a union flag, a state flag, a United States flag, American flag. It was just unbelievable. It was great. But then I've also had people, like you said, with motorcycles. I've had people more, though, believe it or not, There are more people with who are car enthusiasts, whether it be sports cars and old cars, and they just it looks like we're having a car show here because all of them come and the whole parking lot is full, and we line them up and we put them in the front, and they do escorts too. I mean, it's just a beautiful thing if you belong to one of those things or you're really into that type of thing. Motorcycles that we also have Vietnam veterans. And they do any war. They don't care. That's just for a veteran. But they are so dedicated because they didn't, when they came back from Vietnam, they didn't get their due. They didn't get the parade. And they don't want any veteran to ever feel like they did. So they take on a lot of projects. One, if any funeral home has unclaimed cremains and they're a veteran and you can't find their discharge papers, doesn't matter. They do the research, they go to NPR, they get the records, and then they escort them to a military cemetery and get them in. They take care of all of that. So any funeral home in the U.S., just contact your Vietnam veterans. This is a wide project, a nationwide project, and they make sure every veteran is not sitting on some shelf or closet or a funeral home shelf unclaimed. They get them buried. But any funeral that wants an escort to a veteran cemetery or something like that, they will do it because they believe in every veteran deserves some kind of right. They don't care. They do it. They come out. There's about, 6 or 8 of them at a time. They got their vest on, their Vietnam colors on. It's really impressive.
Wow. Have you had a situation where somebody, because of, let's say, their affinity for something, whatever it may be, opted not to be transported in a hearse, but used a different vehicle?
Yeah, we have firemen and fire trucks.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
We have also, there's about 5 in the country because they're very expensive, but there's 5 and they will trailer them too if you want to rent them. They're the motorcycle caisson with the glass and you put the casket in there. And
I've seen it pulled by a motorcycle.
Yeah, because they have to get a special transmission put in because of the weight and everything. So, but they trailer them to you. And there's like 5 in the country because they're so expensive.
Wow.
Right?
Wow.
Yeah.
Something different.
But if that's what you want, they'll do it. Everything has a cost. So you have to say to yourself, how much am I willing to spend? Because then you hear these stories, they charge me $25,000, but what's your cost? What's your budget? And what are you willing to spend? It's itemized line by line. How much you're willing to spend for that motorcycle? Get $3,000 because they either have to fly it or drive it on a trailer to get it to you. Right. So they charge minimum $3,000.
Sure. But you know what? If that's somebody's love, and that's how they want to be sent off, that's
why not?
That's it. Why
we should all have some kind of unique celebration or life celebration, however you want it, term you want to use. We're all individuals. There's no 2 people alike, just like our fingerprints. So why are our funerals cookie cutters? They should not be cookie cutters. They should be, I would like mine to be more unique. I agree with you. Let's do it. What do you want?
I've often joked around because I've been on the radio since I was a kid, playing music, everything. And we'd have radio events and everything. So I'm going to make my funeral a radio event. We're going to have a prize wheel. We're going to have a DJ, throwing out T-shirts.
The way you drop the quarter, you get a key, you try and open the thing.
Yeah, we'll give away prizes. Why not?
Why not? Free T-shirts.
Yeah, absolutely. They could say, Steve says goodbye. I don't know, whatever it is.
I don't know. We should have your golden microphone there, like your baby shoes. We should bronze it. Put it on display.
See, this is why you do what you do. You're creative. If somebody just throws you the ball, this is what I want something different. You get it done.
Yeah.
How do we find you? I know you have 2 funeral homes in New Jersey. What's your website?
The normal www. Oliverie funeralhome.com. And both when you go there, you can see both under the pictures. You just pick Manchester or Jackson location. You'll see both. Yep.
Thank you for today. Thank you for giving us all the insight, all the things that we've always wondered about, the process of passing, which is a fact of life. I really appreciate it.
Oh, you're welcome. Call me anytime, even off the radio if you need me. Answer this question. I got the answer.
All right. Appreciate it. We'll be right back.
You're welcome. I'm glad you're back. I'm feeling good.
Thank you. Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
Hey, what's up, everybody? I'm Jason Derulo. I love that music connects to people all over the country. But unfortunately, so does something else. Childhood hunger. 15 million kids struggle with hunger right here in America. And yet, every year, billions of pounds of surplus food in the U.S. go to waste instead of going to the children in need. Feeding America is working to change this. The Feeding America nationwide network of food banks rescues this surplus of food to help provide meals to families in virtually every community in the United States, including yours. But they just can't do this alone. Join me in the fight against hunger in America. For more information on what you can do to get involved, visit feedingamerica.org. That's feedingamerica.org. Together we can solve hunger. Together, we're Feeding America. A message from Feeding America and the Ad Council.